Whether or not your ears were burning in just a moment, as you figured prominently at the end of the debate. I first of all, though, want to get your overall impression of what went on stage last night. Was there a knockout punch? Did it change anything?
No knockout punch. Both main protagonists, that is to say, Prime Minister Carney and Mr. Poilievre, I think they both did very well. Carney is in one of those positions where he just has to keep a lid on things. He didn't want to slip on a banana peel or give his adversaries an occasion to have an aha moment. Mr. Singh did a lot of talking over the other people who were on the stage. That was unfortunate. The night before, he had actually gone after the moderator. So obviously a lot of pressure on his shoulders right now. Mr. Blanchet, I mean, the question could be honestly asked if he should have been on that stage at all, given the fact that they are far from the 90% of seats, where you have to be running candidates. They're only running them in Quebec. He did his best. He again, he took shots that were completely gratuitous because he has no financial documents to put on the table. He doesn't have to. He's never going to have to make a decision about anything in the real world. So the two main people, of course, Carney and Poilievre were going at it strongly. And sometimes Mr. Poilievre had learned the trick of talking over Mr. Carney, and the moderator didn't react to that as I think he might have. There was a certain limit that was reached where nobody watching could understand a word that was being said. And that's not fair for your opponent, and it's not fair for the listening public. Overall, there was something outside of the debate that caused a lot of the details to be pushed to the bottom of the page of the newspaper articles, and it's the stunt of the fake journalists for the fake news outlets, right-wing outlets that are fairly favorable to Mr. Poilievre. And why that's a shame for Mr. Poilievre is because he did well in the debate. There are things that he could have and should have been talking about in terms of the debate, but instead people were talking about the gong show put on by these, like, as I say, these extreme right-wing media, and they were putting on a show to draw attention to themselves and maybe get eyeballs on their websites and that sort of thing. But I'm not sure it helped Mr. Poilievre. In fact, I'm quite convinced of the contrary.
Actually, I was quite surprised he wasn't asked about that when he was before the cameras a short time ago. And as a result of that, the post-debate scrums were canceled. They were called down. So that deprives Canadians, I think.
Just so people understand this, Marcia, we understand that terminology, the post-debate scrums, but that's the 10 minutes where real journalists get to ask real questions of the candidates, and you have to stand there and you're going to say how well you did in the debate and how awful the others were, but you're going to eventually have to answer a few good questions, and a lot of juice comes out of those meetings between journalists and the candidates at those post-debate scrums. Yes, they were canceled. I mean, there will be a postmortem on the famous Leaders Debate Commission. Yeah. I have a feeling that the Leaders Debate Commission will be decommissioned as soon as this thing is over. They did an abysmal job.
Let me get now to your sort of cameo. I'm going to play that sound where you were brought up, and we're going to get your reaction to it. Let's listen.
Sure.
Now, given that Canada has experienced Chinese interference by Beijing, the government of China, in 2 consecutive elections, I needed to do my job to speak freely without fear of prosecution. And that was not something I would be allowed to do. Even Thomas Mulcair, the former leader of the NDP, said that when he was the leader of the opposition, he never would have accepted the kind of gag order that your government and Mr. Trudeau's government was attempting to impose on me.
Okay, so he was being asked about why he hasn't read those documents, something that you and I have talked about a number of times. I got to be frank with you, Tom. I've never understood why you don't think he should read them. So give us your thoughts around that exchange and how you were characterized and what you think will come from that, if anything.
I'm not going to put myself in the legions of the misquoted. Mr. Poilievre gave a perfect accounting of my position on this, which is the same as his. You're not just a member of parliament. Every MP is beholden to their voters, Marcia. But you're the leader of His Majesty's loyal opposition. In my case, it was Her Majesty's. And you have a special job to do under the Constitution and institutionally. And no, you should not have your hands tied by going and seeing documents that the government says, now you're not allowed to talk about this issue anymore. You can't talk about what we've just shown you. That's a mug's game. And he was right to refuse it. Now, there's another aspect to this, as a political observer and no longer as the former head of the opposition that I found interesting. Mr. Carney, like the other leaders, had a total of one question that he was allowed to ask any other leader. Mr. Carney chose to ask that one on the issue of security clearance to Mr. Poilievre. How in heaven's name did that make it all the way up to Mr. Carney? What staffer said, oh, we've really got Poilievre on this one, let's go after it? Poilievre's answer, he cracked it out of the ballpark. He said, I've got a security clearance that I've had since I was the Minister of Housing and Minister back in Harper's day. No, I'm not going to have my hands tied by the government. I'm the leader of the opposition. I have a job to do. And so how is it possible that in the shop around Mr. Carney, the same elves who were there for Mr. Trudeau, this was a made-up thing by Mr. Trudeau to try to push back against Pierre Poilievre at the time, because Trudeau was in such dire difficulty on foreign interference. He had tried to give it to David Johnston, the former Governor General. He then handed it off to a Royal Commission that basically said, yeah, we got to be careful, but didn't name any names. So this was a made-up thing by Justin Trudeau to fight back against Poilievre. The fact that somehow somebody around Mark Carney, who's now the Prime Minister, who's running, and is doing very well, made that into his hands as the question against Poilievre. That's a mystery that I'd love to find the answer to, because it made no sense that he was asking that question.
So a wasted opportunity, in other words.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well said.
Interesting. All right. Tom, we got to leave it there for today. We've got Jagmeet Singh coming up in just a second, but great to chat with you. Tom Mulcair
Great to be with you, Marcia. All
is
the
our
best.
CTV News political